Ladies and gentlemen, throughout history, the sword has been a symbol of power, strength, and authority. In the hands of a warrior, it can defend the weak, uphold justice, and carve the path to victory. But just as easily, in the wrong hands, it can sow chaos, destruction, and suffering. That is why a sword must never be wielded recklessly. It must be guided by wisdom. Power without wisdom is a force that can be more destructive than beneficial. Throughout history, we have seen countless examples of individuals and nations possessing immense power but lacking the wisdom to wield it responsibly. The result has often been chaos, suffering, and downfall. True power does not lie in the ability to dominate or destroy. Rather, it lies in the ability to use strength judiciously, with thoughtfulness and purpose. Without wisdom to guide it, power becomes reckless, unpredictable, and ultimately harmful. One of the clearest examples of this can be seen in the history of empires. Many powerful rulers have risen to greatness through sheer force, only to fall because they lack the wisdom to sustain their rule. Take, for instance, the story of Alexander the Great. He was a military genius who conquered vast territories at an astonishing pace. His power was unmatched, and yet, despite his conquests, his empire crumbled soon after his death. Why? Because, while he had the strength to conquer, he did not put in place a lasting system of governance. His power was absolute, but the wisdom to ensure its longevity was missing. This pattern is not limited to history books. Even in our personal lives, power without wisdom manifests in different ways. Consider someone who has great influence over others, a leader, a celebrity, or even a teacher. If they use their position recklessly, making decisions based on ego rather than thoughtful consideration, they risk losing respect and causing harm. A leader who commands with fear rather than understanding may see short-term obedience, but in the long run, resentment will grow and their authority will crumble. A teacher who imposes knowledge without inspiring curiosity fails to truly educate. A parent who enforces strict rules without understanding their child's perspective may create distance rather than discipline. One of the most dangerous aspects of power without wisdom is that it often blinds the individual to the consequences of their actions. Power can create an illusion of invincibility, making a person believe that they are always right simply because they have the authority to enforce their will. This is why history is filled with cautionary tales of rulers who refused to listen to advisors, kings who ignored the warnings of their people, and leaders who mistook fear for respect. Eventually, their unchecked power led to their downfall. In contrast, when power is guided by wisdom, it becomes a force for progress and positive change. Wise leaders know when to act and when to hold back. They understand that true strength is not about proving dominance, but about making decisions that benefit the greater good. They recognize that power is not an entitlement, but a responsibility. The greatest leaders in history, figures like Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, and Abraham Lincoln, did not rely solely on their authority. They relied on wisdom, patience, and moral clarity to guide their actions. This lesson extends beyond leadership and governance. It applies to everyday life. Words, for example, hold great power. A single sentence can inspire someone to reach new heights or crush their spirit completely. Without wisdom, one might use words carelessly, saying hurtful things in moments of anger or frustration. But those who understand the power of words choose them carefully, knowing that once spoken, they cannot be taken back. Similarly, decisions made in moments of emotional impulse can have lasting consequences. A person with great financial resources but little wisdom might spend recklessly, only to find themselves in ruin. An individual with great physical strength but no self-control might engage in violence, leading to irreversible damage. Power in any form, whether it be physical strength, intelligence, wealth, or influence, must be tempered by wisdom. Wisdom requires reflection, patience, and an understanding of consequences. It is not about suppressing power, but directing it toward meaningful and constructive outcomes. Those who possess both power and wisdom do not seek to dominate others. They seek to uplift, to guide, and to create a legacy that lasts beyond their own time. In the end, power alone is fleeting, but wisdom ensures that its impact is meaningful and enduring. Each of us carries a sword of our own, though it may not be made of steel. In the modern world, power takes many forms, and it exists in the way we speak, the way we act, and the choices we make. Whether we realize it or not, we hold influence over others through our words, our decisions, and our presence. This influence, much like a sword, can be used for good or for harm, depending on how we wield it. One of the most powerful weapons people possess is their words. Words have the ability to inspire, heal, and uplift, but they also have the power to wound, discourage, and destroy. A simple sentence can shape someone's confidence for a lifetime, either giving them the courage to chase their dreams or making them doubt themselves forever. A kind word at the right moment can change a person's entire outlook, just as a cruel remark can leave a scar that never fully fades. This is why it is so important to be mindful of the way we communicate. Every word we speak carries weight, and once spoken, it cannot be taken back. In the age of social media, the power of words has grown even stronger. A single comment, a post, or a message can reach thousands, even millions within moments. The ability to influence has never been more accessible, yet it is often used recklessly. People spread misinformation, humiliate others, or tear down those they disagree with, all while hiding behind screens. But just as a sword in the wrong hands can cause destruction, so can careless words on the internet. Those who understand the true power they hold use it wisely, choosing their words carefully and using their platform to uplift rather than destroy. Beyond words, the choices we make every day shape the lives of those around us. Leaders in positions of power have the ability to impact millions, but so do ordinary people in their daily interactions. A manager at work, for example, has power over their employees. They can either encourage growth and motivation through fair leadership or create a toxic environment by being harsh and unappreciative. A teacher has the power to inspire curiosity and learning in students, or they can make learning a dull and discouraging experience. Even within families, every action and decision carries meaning. A parent's approach to discipline, encouragement, or affection can shape a child's self-worth and confidence for years to come. Power is not limited to those in positions of authority. Even the way we treat strangers reflects how we wield our personal power. A simple act of kindness, holding the door for someone, offering a helping hand, or showing patience can make an unexpected difference in someone's day. On the other hand, small acts of rudeness, neglect, or indifference can contribute to someone's struggles in ways we may never see. Understanding that everyone holds a sword of their own means recognizing the responsibility that comes with it. It is easy to underestimate the impact we have on others, but everything we do, no matter how small, has a ripple effect. The way we carry ourselves, the way we respond to challenges, and the way we treat others all define the kind of influence we exert on the world. Some people wield their power carelessly, without thinking of the consequences, while others understand that their strength must be tempered with wisdom. True power lies in using what we have for the right reasons. It is not about domination, intimidation, or proving superiority. Instead, it is about making decisions that contribute to growth, harmony, and positive change. Those who recognize their own influence and use it wisely become the guiding forces in their communities, their families, and their workplaces. They do not simply react to the world, they shape it. At the end of the day, the question is not whether we have power, it is how we choose to use it. Will we wield our words with care? Will we make decisions that uplift rather than tear down? Will we recognize the strength we hold and ensure that it is used to build rather than destroy? Each of us carries a sword, and the way we wield it defines the legacy we leave behind. History has shown us time and time again that wisdom is the key to sustaining power. Many great warriors, leaders, and visionaries have risen to prominence through sheer strength or intelligence, but what truly set them apart was their ability to wield their power with wisdom. Strength alone may win battles, but it is wisdom that wins wars, builds nations, and creates legacies that endure. One of the best examples of this is King Solomon, known throughout history for his unparalleled wisdom. He was not a warrior king, nor did he rely on brute force to maintain his rule. Instead, he understood the complexities of human nature, governance, and justice. When two women came to him claiming to be the mother of the same child, he proposed cutting the baby in half, knowing that the true mother would rather give up her child than see it harmed. His wisdom not only resolved the conflict, but also solidified his reputation as a fair and discerning leader. His strength lay not in his army, but in his ability to make just and thoughtful decisions. In contrast, history is filled with examples of rulers who relied solely on power, but ultimately failed because they lacked wisdom. One such example is Napoleon Bonaparte. He was a military genius, conquering vast territories across Europe with his strategic brilliance. However, his hunger for power blinded him to the realities of diplomacy and restraint. His decision to invade Russia in 1812, despite warnings from advisors, led to the devastating loss of his army and ultimately his downfall. His strength was undeniable, but his lack of wisdom in understanding limitations and long-term consequences proved to be his greatest weakness. Beyond historical rulers, wisdom has played a crucial role in shaping modern leaders as well. Take Mahatma Gandhi, for example. He did not possess military might, nor did he seek power through violence or force. Yet, through wisdom, patience, and an unwavering belief in nonviolent resistance, he led India to independence. His ability to understand human nature, anticipate the reactions of his oppressors, and inspire unity among people made him one of the most influential figures in history. Unlike many who sought power for personal gain, he wielded his influence with wisdom, ensuring that his legacy endured far beyond his lifetime. Wisdom is not just important for leaders, it is crucial in every aspect of life. Even in personal relationships, the ability to exercise wisdom determines success or failure. A person may be physically strong or intellectually superior, but without wisdom, they may struggle to maintain meaningful connections. A parent who enforces strict discipline without understanding their child's needs may create resentment instead of respect. A friend who speaks harsh truths without considering how they are delivered may push people away rather than help them grow. Wisdom in relationships means knowing when to speak and when to listen, when to push and when to hold back, when to lead and when to follow. The same applies to the business world. A CEO who aggressively expands a company without considering long-term sustainability may achieve short-term success but eventually face collapse. A leader who values profit over people may build an empire, but one that crumbles due to discontent and internal struggles. In contrast, those who balance ambition with foresight and drive with ethical decision-making create businesses that thrive for generations. Wisdom is what separates those who merely hold power from those who truly lead. It is the ability to see beyond immediate gains and understand the broader consequences of one's actions. It requires patience, self-awareness, and the humility to recognize that no one has all the answers. Those who possess wisdom do not seek to dominate others, but to guide them. They do not react impulsively, but make decisions with careful thought and consideration. Throughout history and in modern life, one truth remains consistent. Power without wisdom leads to destruction, but power guided by wisdom creates a lasting legacy. Those who seek only strength may rise quickly, but they fall just as fast. Those who cultivate wisdom ensure that their influence endures, shaping the world in ways that last far beyond their own time. Reckless actions, when driven by impulse rather than wisdom, often lead to irreversible harm. Whether in leadership, relationships, or personal choices, acting without careful thought can cause unintended consequences that may be difficult, if not impossible, to undo. A sword swung without control does not discriminate between friend and foe. It cuts everything in its path. Similarly, power wielded without wisdom can damage reputations, break trust, and create conflicts that could have been avoided with patience and foresight. History offers many examples of individuals who acted recklessly and paid the price for their impulsive decisions. One well-known case is that of Julius Caesar. While he was an incredibly skilled military leader, his growing ambition made him reckless. By declaring himself dictator for life, he ignored the concerns of the Roman Senate and the warning signs of betrayal. His unchecked desire for power led directly to his assassination by those who once stood by his side. If he had exercised more caution and wisdom, he might have prolonged his rule and prevented the violent end that awaited him. Another famous example is Adolf Hitler. His reckless decision to invade the Soviet Union in 1941, despite warnings from his military advisors, proved to be one of the most disastrous military mistakes in history. His overconfidence and impatience led to a prolonged war on two fronts, which ultimately resulted in the downfall of Nazi Germany. His failure to consider the consequences of his actions not only led to his own demise, but also caused unimaginable suffering for millions. This is a stark reminder that reckless actions, especially when tied to power, can have devastating consequences. Beyond history, reckless actions manifest in everyday life in various ways. Consider a business leader who makes impulsive financial decisions without analyzing the long-term impact. Many once successful companies have collapsed because their leaders prioritize short-term profits over sustainable growth. Acting without a clear strategy, ignoring expert advice, or making hasty investments can lead to financial ruin, layoffs, and the destruction of an organization's reputation. A company that was built over decades can fall apart in a matter of months because of one poorly thought out decision. Reckless actions also damage personal relationships. Words spoken in anger without consideration of their impact can leave lasting wounds. A single outburst, a moment of betrayal, or a rash decision can shatter trust that took years to build. Friendships, marriages, and families have been destroyed because someone acted without thinking of the consequences. Apologies can be offered, but some wounds are difficult to heal. In relationships, wisdom is the ability to pause, reflect, and respond thoughtfully rather than react in the heat of the moment. In the digital age, reckless behavior is more visible than ever. Social media allows people to express their thoughts instantly, but it also amplifies the consequences of impulsive actions. A single post, comment, or video can ruin reputations, end careers, or spark widespread controversy. Many have lost jobs, faced public backlash, or damaged their personal lives because they acted without considering the weight of their words. The internet never forgets, and a moment of recklessness can lead to years of regret. Recklessness also extends to decision-making in crisis situations. Leaders who panic and act without careful planning often escalate problems instead of solving them. During the COVID-19 pandemic, for example, countries that rushed into decisions without considering long-term effects faced severe economic and social consequences. On the other hand, nations that carefully analyzed data and implemented strategic responses managed to minimize the damage. In any crisis, acting recklessly out of fear or desperation can lead to greater suffering. The antidote to recklessness is wisdom, patience, and self-discipline. Wise individuals understand that not every battle needs to be fought immediately, not every challenge requires an immediate reaction, and not every decision should be made in haste. Taking time to think, to seek advice, and to weigh possible outcomes can prevent regret and unnecessary harm. Reckless actions are often driven by emotion, anger, pride, greed, or fear, but true strength lies in the ability to control those emotions and act with reason. Whether in war, leadership, relationships, or daily life, those who wield their power recklessly find themselves facing destruction. But those who exercise patience and wisdom create stability, trust, and success that lasts far beyond a single moment. Control over one's emotions and impulses is one of the most vital aspects of wielding power with wisdom. Strength without self-control is dangerous, much like a sword in the hands of someone who cannot control their swings. Whether in positions of leadership, relationships, or personal growth, the ability to remain calm, measured, and thoughtful in the face of challenges determines whether power is used for good or for destruction. Many of history's greatest downfalls, whether of individuals or entire civilizations, have been caused by unchecked emotions: anger, pride, greed, or fear. Anger, in particular, has led to countless unnecessary conflicts and losses. Many battles, both literal and metaphorical, have been fought not because they were necessary, but because someone acted out of rage rather than reason. A leader who cannot control their temper will make impulsive decisions that hurt their people. A warrior who allows anger to cloud their judgment will become reckless, making mistakes that can lead to their defeat. Even in daily life, an uncontrolled temper can ruin relationships, careers, and reputations. People who lash out in anger often regret their words or actions later, but by then, the damage has already been done. Pride is another dangerous emotion when not kept in check. Many powerful figures throughout history have fallen because they let arrogance blind them to reality. They refused to listen to advice, underestimated their enemies, or ignored warning signs because they believed themselves invincible. One of the most famous examples of this is the Greek myth of Achilles. Though he was nearly invulnerable, his pride made him reckless. He refused to let go of his anger against Agamemnon, refused to consider the consequences of his actions, and ultimately met his downfall because of it. In the real world, this kind of arrogance has led to failed military campaigns, economic disasters, and the destruction of entire empires. Greed, too, has led many to ruin. People who cannot control their desire for more power, more wealth, more recognition, often end up losing everything. Great leaders and business magnates have built empires only to see them crumble because they were never satisfied with what they had. They overreached, made unethical decisions, or took unnecessary risks in their pursuit of more. True wisdom lies in knowing when to stop, when enough is enough, and when the pursuit of power or wealth is no longer worth the cost. Fear, though seemingly the opposite of recklessness, can also lead to destructive decisions when uncontrolled. Leaders who rule through fear or make choices based on paranoia often create their own downfalls. Fear can cause people to betray those closest to them, to act dishonorably, or to make rash decisions that backfire. In personal life, fear can prevent growth. Fear of failure, fear of change, or fear of what others think can hold people back from reaching their full potential. The most successful individuals are those who acknowledge fear, but do not let it control them. True strength comes from self-discipline, from the ability to control emotions rather than be controlled by them. A wise person knows that reacting out of anger, pride, greed, or fear will only lead to destruction. Instead, they practice patience, humility, and self-awareness. They take time to think before they speak, to analyze before they act, and to listen before they decide. This is what separates those who wield power responsibly from those who let it consume them. In everyday life, self-control determines success in many ways. A student who lacks discipline will struggle to achieve their goals no matter how intelligent they are. A professional who cannot control their temper may lose opportunities despite their talent. A person in a relationship who cannot manage their emotions may destroy something valuable through words spoken in the heat of the moment. In all aspects of life, those who exercise control over themselves hold true power. Mastering oneself is the first step to mastering anything else. Those who fail to control their own minds and hearts will never be able to lead others effectively. Whether in leadership, relationships, or personal ambitions, the ability to remain composed, thoughtful, and in control is what truly sets successful individuals apart. A sword is only as effective as the hand that wields it, and a mind that lacks self-discipline will always be at risk of turning power into destruction. True wisdom is demonstrated not just in knowing how to wield power, but also in knowing when not to use it. The greatest leaders, warriors, and thinkers throughout history understood that sometimes restraint is the most powerful choice. Just because one has strength does not mean it must be exercised at every opportunity. A sword that is drawn for every conflict will eventually become dull, and a leader who always relies on force will lose the loyalty and respect of those around them. Many of history's most respected figures were those who chose diplomacy over war, patience over aggression, and understanding over dominance. One of the most well-known examples is Nelson Mandela. After spending 27 years in prison, he had every reason to seek revenge against those who had oppressed him and his people. Yet, he chose the path of reconciliation rather than retaliation. He understood that true leadership was not about using power to punish, but about using it to heal and unite. His ability to restrain his anger and desire for vengeance allowed South Africa to transition from apartheid to democracy without descending into civil war. Another powerful example is the story of George Washington. When the American Revolution ended, many wanted to make him king, believing that his leadership in battle had earned him the right to rule indefinitely. But Washington refused, stepping away from power voluntarily, setting the precedent for peaceful transitions of leadership. His restraint ensured that the United States would not become another monarchy, but a true democracy. His wisdom in knowing when not to seize power made him one of the most respected figures in history. Restraint is also crucial in personal relationships. Many conflicts escalate because one or both sides refuse to back down, believing that power must always be asserted. However, wisdom lies in knowing when to walk away, when to listen instead of argue, and when to choose peace over pride. A person who always insists on having the last word, proving themselves right, or asserting dominance will eventually find themselves alone. True strength is not about overpowering others, but about having the self-awareness and humility to choose peace when necessary. The same principle applies to decision-making in business and leadership. A company that constantly seeks to dominate competitors through aggressive tactics may find short-term success, but will eventually face backlash. In contrast, businesses that exercise restraint, prioritize ethical practices, and think long-term create lasting success. Wise leaders understand that not every opportunity must be taken, not every challenge must be met with force, and not every criticism must be answered with defensiveness. In all aspects of life, knowing when not to act is just as important as knowing when to act. Power that is wielded recklessly will eventually lead to downfall, but power that is guided by wisdom and restraint will endure. Strength is not in the ability to conquer, but in the ability to choose when to hold back, when to listen, and when to lead with patience rather than force.